So just when you think people can't get any dumber, people like ZavGirl come around and completely surprise you with not only how dumb they can be, but with how desensitized they are to the stupidity that they are showing and the outright horrific actions they are claiming to be normal or totally okay. What's going on, big dogs? SG Leo here, and in today's video, ZavGirl becomes the most disgusting person on YouTube by charging people to see the autopsy photos of an 11-year-old boy, and then decides to blame everyone else for her actions. Sit back, relax, and let's dig into this. Alright guys, so before we get into the real meat and potatoes of this whole situation, I think it's important to kind of explain the case that led up to the situation that ZavGirl is now in. So before I get started, full disclosure, I will be discussing and going over the unfortunate death of a preteen child. So this is kind of your warning to tune out or skip to a later part in the video where I'll go over what ZavGirl herself has done. Back in January of 2020, Letitia Stouch, who was the stepmother to 11-year-old Gannon, planned out and murdered the young boy. Letitia was a special educational teacher in Colorado, where she would go on to meet her husband Al, who was a serving member of the National Guard and at the time of his son's murder was out on duty for the National Guard. Letitia, who was found to have Googled, "I hate my stepson," would go on to stab the young boy 18 times, following by bashing him in the head and finally shooting him in the face, which, according to the investigators, made the boy's face almost completely unrecognizable. She would go on to rent a van, shove the boy's body in a suitcase, drive from Colorado to Florida, and dump the young boy's body under a bridge in Pensacola. Letitia herself would actually end up calling in the missing boy, but her husband would become suspicious of his wife's actions and began to allow the FBI to listen in to their phone calls with his wife, which would then lead to her arrest. She would go on trial and be found guilty in May of 2023 of first-degree murder of a child under 12. Letitia would actually try to plead as insane, but was found to have actually taken photos of Gannon the morning of the murder before she had actually went out and done the murder itself. She even actually was found to have drugged the boy. So clearly this entire situation is completely messed up. No one, especially a young boy, deserves to have his life taken away, and especially from some person that he probably put a lot of faith and trust in. This was his stepmother, after all, and the only reason she really gave to why she did what she did was that she felt like she was just a glorified babysitter and was basically forced to watch Gannon while his dad was out working for the National Guard or whatever he was doing. She never really gave an explanation in the trial, but all hopes and prayers go out to the family of Gannon, and may he rest easy. So like I stated, this case just ended a few months ago, and ZavGirl, who is a true crime YouTuber, would end up requesting an FOI, or a Freedom of Information request, which, honest to God, up until this incident, I had no idea that was even a thing. I didn't know that you could just call up some police department and ask for like autopsy photos and evidence that they had used in the investigation so that you can yourself make your own investigation and do your own investigating. I didn't know you could do that, but apparently it's 100% legal. But ZavGirl would state later that she did not actually request the autopsy photos, but that they were still given to her from the request. And then this sick lady, right, even though she said that she didn't request the autopsy photos, instead of, returning them or anything like that, this sick lady would brainstorm the most disgusting thing I have yet to see on YouTube. She didn't decide to send the photos back or just not use them while making her research for a video on her Patreon, I believe. No, she straight up decided that she needed to apparently one-up Logan Paul and make people pay $3 so that you can see the photos of a murdered young boy. Now, obviously, this caused a ton of backlash, and she would release a statement and a very terrible apology on her community tab, which I believe is now taken down. I haven't been able to find it. I haven't found any photos on Twitter or anything like that, but I was able to find at least a quote of what the apology said. And she said, quote, "The reality of the situation is that different people feel differently about this. Some people genuinely think making a video, including the autopsy photos, is bad. and I respect their opinions and feelings. Other people, like myself, think of autopsy photos and the coroner discussing/explaining them as interesting and informative and are able to view it in a more scientific, detached way. It is just one of those things where it depends on the person. I understand some of you have issues with me charging money on my Patreon for that video. If I was charging money for the autopsy files alone or something like that, I think I would understand your point. But in this case, I spent a lot of time and had worked hard putting together a video lining up the coroner's audio and discussing and descriptions along with the appropriate part of the photos. She is describing and editing it together to try and make it as informative as possible for the viewer. Okay, so she really doesn't apologize. That was kind of supposed to be her apology. She just kind of blames everyone else for her being an idiot and just an overall disgusting human being. She knows that all of this is wrong and gross, but I highly doubt that she's going to return any of the money she made off of it or any of the clout that this is going to bring to her channel. It doesn't matter. I just want to make this very clear. It does not matter how hard you work on a video or if you think you did such a great job with how you made everything line up and how the descriptions in the photos were perfect and all that stuff. You should not be posting the photos of a deceased child and then requiring people to not only pay for information that they don't even have to pay for. Like if somebody genuinely wanted to see these autopsy photos, they could have just done what she did and requested an FOI. But they didn't because nobody wants to see that. And the people that do, I think, are kind of messed up in the head. You should not be charging people to see the photos of a kid who was murdered. You shouldn't be charging people to see the corpse of a kid. This is clearly a plot for clicks and views. And if she cared so much, she'd have this taken down. She'd have taken this down almost immediately, but she didn't. She tried to keep it up. Finally, I do believe she ended up taking it down, but I believe Patreon also did ban her or at least took down the video because it did violate their community guidelines. Like, if this is supposed to be used as some form of informational content, like she said it was supposed to be, then why charge anything? I don't think anybody is so stupid to think that this wouldn't immediately backfire. Now, I wasn't able to confirm any of this, but apparently Patreon did ban her, or at least they took down the video because it does violate the community guidelines, which, if true, is honestly perfect, and I'm glad that stuff should be taken down. People like this loser, along with Logan Paul, who I have no idea how this guy even has a platform anymore after he showed dead bodies on YouTube, but that's a topic for a completely different video. And before I end this, I actually wanted to go over a statement that I was able to find from Al, who is the father of Gannon, about this entire ZavGirl's situation. And I think this should be all the evidence you need on why this is wrong. And if ZavGirl has any heart at all and gives a crap at all about this kid and his family, I think she would listen to the father's words here and just do the right thing. But we'll see how this turns out. So the father was actually interviewed, and this is what he had to say about the whole ZavGirl thing. Quote, "This is about Gannon. This is not about anyone's opinions, or if you view it as a scientific discussion. This is about respect for a little boy who tragically lost his life and did not deserve this. For the family that survives Gannon, it is re-traumatizing. We just finished this trial 2 months ago, and now we're having to relive this stuff. We're not able to just put it behind us. The word I use to describe this is evil. The world got enough information from the trial to have every discussion they wanted to have. Why do we need to go and have freedom of information requests and pay for this kind of information and dishonor my son by putting these photos out there?" Al, who was a member of the Colorado National Guard, added that the only day he did not attend at the trial was the day he knew the autopsy photos were going to be shown. He was determined to avoid it, he said, but now feels like he just can't escape these images. Al later said, quote, "I feel like I can't even go out on YouTube without the possibility of accidentally coming across these photos. It's unclear if the YouTuber will face any kind of legal action. She appears to have deactivated the Patreon page where she was selling the images, but is yet to make a public comment or response to the family." So the father himself is saying, please take this down. Quit trying to make money off of my kid. And I 100% agree. They just went through this whole entire traumatizing ordeal where his son was brutally murdered by somebody that he probably loved and respected, right? This was his wife. He did marry this individual. And now you have this girl, this psychopath on YouTube, trying to basically make a quick buck off of his deceased son, which is just disgusting and terrible. And I think I'm not one for deplatforming people, but if we are going to deplatform anybody, it should be this video and this individual. But anyways, guys, let me know how about you feel this situation. Anyways, guys, let me know how you feel about the situation down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Please go follow me down below Please go follow me on all my social medias, which will be linked down below. Thank you guys for your time, and until next time, Godspeed.
I lost my best friend to 23. She left her body in Harvard above me.